Okay. Now, pardon me, I've been sick this week. Not sick when I drew this, but sick while I'm recording this voice stuff. And sick while I was doing the War Robots videos. I'm trying to get this so it's kind of in a regular schedule, but I'm doing them in like batches, so figuring out the time frame of how I recorded this is just all over the place. But today, we're doing Spawn. Another fun comic book hero, anti-hero, villain guy character. And of course, I'm doing characters like Spawn and Venom for publicity's sake, hoping that the movies coming out of them will maybe draw some attention to this channel, bulk up the subscriber count and views a little bit, and maybe I could actually get a little revenue out of this. But that said, Spawn is also just really cool to look at, and maybe in the future I was thinking about maybe doing Spawn and Venom fighting each other. Spawn looks kind of like the edgelord, like the ultimate edgy Spider-Man with a cape, still being a Hellspawn and whatever. But like I said, the cape is very important to his character. So as trying, you probably saw a little earlier in the video, I was working on trying to figure out the fabrics and how fabric folds. Um, that's actually always been something that's been a little difficult for me. But so I was doing fabrics and figuring out like chain links and some other aspects for this character. And as you can see in the background, I actually have another perspective grid prepared. However, this one is not 2-point perspective, this one is 1-point perspective, which I hear is very good for comic book action scenes and the like. And so Spawn, I was just kind of, it's interesting, his cape actually hides some of what would be his like musculature, like his frame, but then it kind of gives this illusion that it bulks up his shoulders and deltoids and such. However, from what I could tell for a lot of the work, other artwork I've seen of him, he's kind of has some. I mean, he's still like godly physique, but like it's not like monster physique. It's kind of still human. I was also trying to figure out that little skull thing that goes on his lapels and his kind of belt buckle that the chains come out of. And now we're into the actual thing. And so I tried to lighten up the blue colored pencil so it doesn't show through as much. And I just start trying to pencil in the pose that I want. And from what I've read, or what I've seen, watched, and listened, and kind of learned, the horizon line is supposed to be at your eye line. And so I figured if I wanted my Spawn to be a little more imposing or a little taller, then maybe I'd pull the eye line down to his chest. And so there was the logic for that. Um, I start with a very light line using 4H, very hard pencil. And I just try to just get everything in. I do this usually when I want the result to be a little cleaner. I also bring in the 3B pencil then to kind of try and darken the lines and figure out what I'm doing. I also do that so I can try and make it so you guys can see it. Tea. I'm not the only one sick. We've all been hacking all week. Anyways, I'm trying to. It's odd trying to get the exposure right in these dang videos, because of course I'm aiming it at like a white piece of paper, but it's a Nikon D5100, and I've been told that Canon is better about letting you pick the properties or settings for video. For my Nikon specifically, it seems that the ISO is just always kind of automatic in video format. And that hand is very bad. The hand is bad, and the head seems kind of large. But I did have the foresight to see that the hand was bad, and I erased that. And I think I go back in and trying to figure out the hand. Yeah, that hand was giving me trouble, so I pulled the sketchbook back out and tried to figure out the hand. And I took pictures of some hands and looked at my own hand, and I just kind of started using that reference because I really needed it. I mean, the whole thing doesn't have to be from reference, but it can be helpful to bring out a part. And I think, yeah, I review some of my old hand studies, and I do this hand a couple times to try and figure out just what I'm wanting to do with it. Because of course this hand is important, and this is like one of the main things on his actual person that is in perspective. So then I finally go back in and get the hand better. Yeah, it's a bit better. The head is still kind of large, which is a little difficult because I was more concerned about getting his kind of face mask insignia thing. And since I was so focused on that, I kind of ignored the head size a little bit. But I mean, it also kind of hides in the cape. And I wasn't sure that I wanted him to be a pinhead. Of course, pinheads work better if you want like more massive, brute, almost like monster characters like the one I did for Venom. Or the first demon I did for that matter. Here I tried, I actually changed the lights. And now I think it's really dark, although you can see a lot of the pencil work now. But it's very dark, and all the shadows are worse. But I'm still trying to figure it out. So professional. Mom hacking in the other room, me drinking my tea. And the video quality being shit. Yeah. At least now we're finally getting closer to where the actual magic will come in, and I'll pull out the brush pen. And then it'll all be pretty easy to see. Oh, this is actually something fun that I was sketching in. I decided that if I was going to use this whole perspective grid, I might as well try and get those chains in and doing cool things. And the thing I was doing with the eraser is I was trying to see how many heads tall I made him, which is a proportion thing, and I think I made him too few heads tall, or thus his head was too small, or too large. Yeah, too large. Because more heads tall means in perspective he seems bigger. Thus smaller head is a bigger character. Yada yada blah blah. Yeah, but yay, marker. Oh, of course, crazy musculature. That hand. And that cape. I actually held off. I wasn't convinced that I was done with this drawing, because what I do is I go through and I use my blacks and I use my grayscale markers, but I don't do like any cross hatching. And I was convinced that this was going to be, since it's not one of my characters, that maybe it'd attract more attention, like hopefully the Venom one will. And so I was very much considering going back through and just cross-hatching the heck out of it to try and get as much depth as I could out of it. But that was like a week ago, and I've thus since then done like a bunch of other drawings and drawing videos. And so I'm just kind of here like there was something in college we always talked about, especially toward the end, in animation and all that. Finished, not perfect. And I mean, the more stuff you do finish, the better you can do in the future when you work on other things that you're finishing. And so that's kind of my philosophy with these drawing videos and with all this in general. It's finished, not perfect. And thus, I'm just going to put my voice to this video and let it be done. And if I want to draw more Spawn, then I'll draw more Spawn in another video for another drawing. And I'm just going to kind of let this one be done. As like in the past, of course, I've had trouble with taking drawings too far. But for this one, I just wanted to let it kind of... I got it to a point where I was satisfied enough, and I let it be done. And so this one... And I mean, I did this kind of with the last one with the perspective dragon monster thing attacking a city. I kind of ended before I was entirely finished. In part because I was concerned about going too far with the drawing. And so now I've kind of pendulum swung back the other way, and now I'm kind of looking at these things as kind of like well, I felt like I went too far with that one drawing, or a couple drawings, I guess. And so then I was kind of hesitant, and I don't go far enough with some others, but I think I still go reasonably far. Like, I feel like the head on this particular Spawn is very well rendered, and the pose is a little stiff. I'll say the pose is a little stiff, but I think the action reads well. It's dynamic. It's dynamic as heck, so I think I'm willing to call this a success and willing to wrap up the video. So thanks for watching, blah, blah, blah. Keep going, keep going. And breathe.